Well, of course. Kerry star Sean O'Shea, we already played a little clip of this. It's basically a 15-minute love letter from Eoin, gazing longingly into this man's eyes, going, "You're a superstar, win the All-Ireland this year, come on." That's about it, Eoin, have I summed it up right?
Correct, that's exactly it.
Here he is. AIB launched their sponsorship of the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship. A full 15 minutes and not a single error in this. Enjoy.
Delighted to say now that we are joined by Kerry's Sean O'Shea. How are you getting on, Sean?
Good on, how are you keeping?
Very well, thanks. So, Division 1 champions, it's a shame that there's been little to no opportunity to celebrate that, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it was definitely different. I think I was home on the couch by about 5:30, 6 o'clock, tuning into the rest of the sport on for the evening, so it was different to what you usually expect winning something, but look, I suppose that's the way things are at the moment.
What was that, Manchester United against Chelsea at 5:30, was it?
Yeah, unfortunately, it was a bit of a dull affair.
Who do you support?
I'd be United, but I wouldn't be mad into it, I'd follow it along, but I wouldn't be like Darmine and Owen Leaf for tweeting about it.
He's the big United supporter in the Kerry camp, is he?
Yeah, he has his opinions, right? He thinks he should be in the backroom team, I'd say.
How happy are you guys with the performances over the last couple of weeks? Because you were in very good form before lockdown, and maybe you felt at a bad time, but it seems that you've hit the ground running immediately with the last two performances.
Yeah, I suppose we'd be happy enough with how they went. Obviously, it's hard to know really what way things were going to pan out and where you're going to be, but I suppose we were just delighted and we were very grateful, I suppose, just to be able to get the opportunity to put on the jerseys again and get out in the field and get back into action.
Next week, there's going to be a lot of build-up, you suspect, for this Kerry against Cork fixture, given the cracker that it was last year in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. For you personally, I'm sure you're buddies with a lot of the Cork players. Does it bring an added edge to the proceedings next week?
Yeah, look, obviously it's knockout as well, so it's do or die stuff. So it's going to be really exciting. I'm actually based in Cork myself at the moment too, so I'm in UCC, but I'm on teaching placement in Ballincollig.
Right.
Thankfully, we're off for midterm now this week, so I'll avoid the slagging this week. But I'm sure next week it'll be full on in the staff room and in the corridor. So I'm looking forward to that as well.
Are you a primary or secondary teacher?
Secondary.
Right. Okay. So you're getting it from the students as well, I presume.
Oh yeah, they're well aware of what's going on, so they're well able to give it out as well.
And you obviously weren't in placement there for it last summer. I presume this is the first time for the first championship campaign that you've been on teaching.
Yeah, well, I was in Crease 3 last year in Cork as well.
All right.
Obviously, when that finished up in March, so I wouldn't have been there when I was there for obviously September last year. But when things got going this year, it was obviously closed.
And how does it tend to go when you've got a room of Cork students and a room of Cork football fans who've been quiet over the last 5 to 10 years, ever since 2010, I presume, they don't really have much to throw at you?
No, they find a few bits, all right. We won't be too worried about them. No, they're well able to look after themselves. But it's been good. It's been a good big crack, so it's nice.
The Kerry Cork fixture for you as a kid growing up, was it a big staple of your summer? Would you go into Killarney basically every second summer to see what is one of the great Irish sporting events?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the earliest memories of going to Kerry games would be in Killarney against Cork in Munster finals, or even going out to Páirc Uí Chaoimh too. So it's obviously something that traditionally all my family would went to, and it would be a big day like of the year and really exciting times. So obviously to be able to be playing in that fixture now it's just really great, and we're really looking forward to it in 2 weeks. What
is your first Kerry team that you remember? I presume is 2000 too soon?
Yeah, so I was born in 98.
Okay.
2000 is a bit soon, but my first in Ireland was actually 2002. I was only 4. Kerry Armagh.
Were you at it?
I was at it, yeah. It was my first in Ireland. So my father always tells me that he had to carry me out of the stadium. I was bawling and crying after Kerry were beaten by Armagh, so that was the introduction to it. So there's been a few better days there, thankfully, over the years.
Thankfully, indeed. I guess then what happens over the following years from 2002 is that Kerry put together one of the greatest teams of your lifetime, and possibly the best team since the 70s and 80s. It has a set of forwards that I presume someone like you would be in huge admiration of, and somebody in your exact same position like Declan O'Sullivan, I'm sure in those teams, was a huge influence to you in how you played the game. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, that Kerry team, they were just unbelievable. You looked up to all of them, you down in the backyard and you were trying to emulate what they were doing on the pitch after matches and stuff, and Declan was obviously a huge part of that team, and thankfully then when I was minor we actually got the chance he was involved with us, so it was great to see him from that point of view, so it was great to learn a few bits off Declan. Yeah,
for sure. It's an interesting one when you look back at that team and you look back at some of those games, the games that they played in were incredible, and the freedom that a lot of those forwards played with was something that perhaps a lot of forwards don't have today. Is that something you feel when you're on the pitch, that you need to be a little bit more street smart as a forward in today's game, given the lack of space?
Yeah, like all the games there I've been on TV, over lockdown, the old games we've been watching back, like, and it's mad how things change, I suppose, over time, and how quickly things change as well. Like, the different systems and stuff are in place. So you're watching some games there and they'll be getting the ball in half back and they'll be driving it 70, 80 yards into the full forward line. You'll be saying, should do that today, like, you'll be taking off there, you'll be under pressure to hold your place. So it's mad how it changes, but they're obviously just great times and very enjoyable games to watch.
We were just chatting about that with Conor McKenna actually a while ago, talking about the risks that you can and can't take in a game. So what would be the punishment in the Kerry team if you let a wayward kick pass go astray?
I don't think you'd be held accountable too much for it. I would say if it was totally outrageous or totally the wrong decision, it wouldn't be welcome. But I think a lot of trust is placed in players too, with their decision making, to make the right calls at the right times and to do what they feel is best for the team in that given situation, I suppose. So it kind of comes down to the moment really, and what you feel is the right thing to do.
For sure. Can I ask you about free taking, Sean, because it's something that you're possibly best known for at this moment in time. I'm just interested in how much practice goes into it on a week-to-week basis, but especially this year, given you've had to spend so much time on your own. I presume you've had an opportunity to hone that craft again.
Yeah, so I mean, we were home. I was home there for 5 or 6 months, like John Kimera, so it's nice to be home and to get the opportunity, I suppose, to maybe do things you wouldn't have normally had the chance to. You had more free time. You weren't tied down to a training schedule as much. And then when we got back with the club, obviously it was only a 10-minute drive to training rather than being 2 hours in the car or whatever. So obviously a bit more time. So it was just enjoyable, That's what you used to do when you were younger as well. And that's why I suppose you fell in love with the game, just going down to the pitch with your friends and just kicking around and just trying to improve, I suppose. And it's just something that has been really enjoyable during this period.
Are you someone who's at training before everybody else, kicking ball, practicing your frees?
You try, either before or after. You try and get the extra minutes in, get the extra practice. I think it's important. So whether it be before or after, or even just going out on your own for an hour on a given day, it's just something that's very important to keep on top of, I suppose.
It definitely seemed that this was something that was immediately identifiable about you when you came into the Kerry senior setup, that you would become the go-to free taker. At what stage in your life and your development as a footballer did it start to become an art for you, where you realised that this is something specific you needed to work on?
I suppose underage with my club and stuff, I would have taken the frees. But then when I was in my second year minor, I think I was young in the leaving cert, so I did the leaving cert at 16. So I was 17 that summer, so I just said probably a bit young to go to college. So I took a year out, worked here for the parents in Kimera for a year, and was training with the minors. So that was just a great year where I kind of felt I had loads of free time. I didn't have any commitments really, only training and a bit of work for the parents. And then other than that, then it was just a great opportunity, I suppose, to just go to the field a couple of times a week and just get that practice in. And I think that's kind of the year where I really saw improvement in kicking. And that's kind of when I decided that this is definitely something that you should work on and keep on top of.
You became a professional free taker for a year, basically.
Yeah, you could say that. Well, professional minor footballer, I don't know if there's such a thing, but parents were fairly lenient now at work hours. I wasn't killing myself inside here, so it was great to have that time to go to the pitch and practice, I suppose. How
much attention do you pay to the psychology of that? Because it is a massive part of being either a kicker in rugby or a free taker in football.
Yeah, it's important. I think it's just routine is vital, and that it's just trying to do the same thing. Like whether I'm kicking up in Kimera with no one watching, or you're kicking in Fisher Stadium with a full house, it's just, I suppose, trying to do the same thing over and over, and just have the routine and the repetition there to give you confidence on the game day, on the big occasion that you.
What's your routine?
So off the ground, it'll be 9 steps back, ball needle pointing up, O'Neill's facing towards the goals, and then 9 steps back, and depending on the angle, then it's maybe 1 to the left, 2 to the left, a couple little hops in the run up, then and just head down and follow through.
Right. And what happens if you miss one? Do you have a trigger to arrest it to make sure you don't, or is it just stick to the routine, do the exact same thing?
Yeah, you just can't. It's just stick to the routine. If you miss one, it's gone. You just have to forget about it and just focus on the next one, I suppose. Right.
So 9 steps back, point the letter towards the goals, needle up, and everybody will be able to kick frees like you.
Yeah, you hope so.
Can I ask about, before we wrap up, just how you managed to transport that process into a place like the All-Ireland final last year? Because I'm not sure, do you do much analysis of your own performance, but there was generally a theory out there that you really arrived in that first All-Ireland last year. It was an unbelievable individual display. How difficult was that to ensure that you stuck to that process when you've got 82,000 baying fans in there and the biggest pressure of your life on you at that moment?
Yeah, honestly, like I don't think the amount of fans there kind of comes into account. So it's something that, like, even now with empty stadiums, I think it's the same thing. Like, you kind of block it out. You do your best to block it out, obviously, but I think it's just like you just try and get into your zone and just pretend that you're back in your home field and something that you've done thousands and thousands of times, and just try and get into that mindset and just try and block out everything else, I suppose.
Can I ask you about a moment at the end of that All-Ireland drawn game last year where, as I say, you put in that performance all day, and for whatever it was, 30 seconds to 90 seconds, you thought you had given away the free that was going to lose that game for you on the day. Sorry to bring that up, but what went through your mind at that moment after that foul had been given against you and before Dean Rock struck that free wide?
Yeah, obviously, very nervous. Just hoping that it wouldn't go over, like, in that. So we get another chance at this, but those things happen in games, and I suppose you just have to react to it. And it was the last kick, like, so I knew that was it if it went over. But I think Dave and Tommy were getting ready to do everything they could in the line to stop it as well. So thankfully that wasn't needed. But yeah, look, obviously those things happen in games, and obviously it's something that I need to learn from that. It was a poor enough challenge out by the sideline. It was probably a third challenge, just to learn from that for future, I suppose.
Finally, then, it seems from the way you're talking that the lack of crowds isn't actually going to have as much of an impact on it. And in fact, you actually seem to be talking about the lack of a crowd in the same way as you'd be talking about 82,000 supporters.
Yeah, like, obviously there's times in a game where Kerry crowd gets behind you, it gives you an unbelievable lift, like, and it gives you that extra bit of energy that you need when you're getting tired. And it's going to be difficult without them, like, because they're such a big part of match days. And driving down into stadiums, like going into Fixture Stadium there last year before the Mayo game, and it was just thronged everywhere. It was just unbelievable scenes, like, and just that's obviously going to be missed massively. But I suppose we know that they're still there. They're still watching us at home. We're very lucky and privileged to get the chance to be out and play, and hopefully bring a bit of joy to their lives, their families and friends, and the people, just the wider community, really. And we know that they're going to be watching us and shouting us on through the TV. Probably won't be able to hear it from wherever we're playing, but we know that they'll be, I'd say, for the camera and the few houses, make for interesting viewing.
Absolutely, that's for sure. Listen, Sean, it's been great catching up with you. Best of luck against Cork next week, and most importantly, best of luck back in school next week as well.
Thanks, Eoin. Cheers. Talk to you later.